living your dream here.
Well, thank you very much, Cindy, and all the people in Makawao who came before me, all the people in Hawaii, and have made this space for me, made this possible. Because if they weren't here before me, I wouldn't have been able to do this. They created the ground in which I was able to, to paint on, so to speak.
Well, many wonderful canvases, many wonderful experiences of art, many wonderful dreams, and much success here in your art world. And we'll be, I'm sure, looking at more wonderful events and things that happen here in the future at your art world. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you for watching this show. And I hope you do come and visit with me and experience this place and add your own energy to it. Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Susan. Loren Adams.
Oh, Loren, nice to meet you.
One of our...
Yeah, you have a pretty light on.
Well, Cindy, good to meet you.
We're here with Loren Adams. Loren is an artist extraordinaire whose work is here at Elan Vital's Art World. And you have actually a few dimensions you get into in your artwork. Sometimes it's extremely detailed and realistic looking, and then you find yourself traveling to another world in the detail, right?
Yeah, art is multi-dimensional for me. It's therapy, it's something pleasant to do with one's time. And living in Maui, as you might guess, this is awesome. Inspirationally, every day a new idea comes to mind that one might make with his hands.
You've been on Maui how many years?
11 years.
11 years. Do you like, is it the energy, the light? What is the combination that you think makes the artist so inspired by Maui?
Well, that's a really good question. I think, generally speaking, Maui is kind of the epitome of Mother Earth, and it's a nurturing, very warm feeling to be in Maui. You have to work really hard to have a bad day here. And I think it's a collective consciousness for creative people. Years before I moved here, I came as a visitor because of the art community, and I think artists express what Maui is more so than other folks do. Although everyone seems to enjoy Maui, I think ultimately, until you've made something with your hands, it hasn't come a full circle for you, and that everybody really should make something or paint or indulge in the creative feeling that Maui's about.
You have been working on a project that is really very interesting. You're working right now on a project where you're going to be illustrating works of Mu for an author who's the definitive author writing about Mu, and it sounds like that's going to be a very exciting project.
Well, I've been working on that now for 15 years, and I have written permission to quote freely from the book and to illustrate them from the publisher. And that's the Brotherhood of Life in Albuquerque, New Mexico, believe it or not. They bought the original manuscripts from James Churchward, who published them in the early 30s. And essentially, these works talk about the 12 tribes and their wanderings all around the planet. 10 tribes and 2 lost tribes. And it takes the essential parts of the alphabet and shows that they have a common origin. And most of my paintings in the accelerated evolution body of work are about Mu, which is the 13th letter of the alphabet, and that's all alphabets. If you were to read any alphabet, the meaning of the letters in succession tells the story of the sinking of Mu.
Really?
Yeah.
Was there a connection between what they say, the people from the moon to Mu to what you might see here on Maui? Is there some kind of circular connection that you feel?
Yeah. Mu is for everyone, but not completely for everyone. And by that I mean that a little bit of Mu is good for some folks, and a lot about Mu is good for others.
And then there's the cows who just moo all the time.
That's right. And believe it or not, it's part of it too. I think that to be empirical about the alphabet, I mean, to take fragmented history beyond 6,000 to 10,000 years ago and make validatable facts out of it is not real likely, but the culture itself we really can prove was there. And so they were very much like the mythological ancestors here in the Hawaiian Islands,
Really?
where it was very connected to Mother Earth, and all of it was a symbolic language that was kind of reflecting what nature was, beginning with the deity and how simple it was. That would be with a spot and a circle around that spot. That represents the Creator.
Of
in
course,
his ultimate domain.
when you say the koan is Zen koan, what is Mu? Can be a lifetime practice. People for 30, 40 years just experience Mu as nothingness, or I don't want to try to attempt a Zen koan here, but to work on artwork such as that has such a vastness and at the same time is so ethereal, how do you tap into something that has been gone, is still here, and still trying to define it in artwork?
Well, those archetypes are rather eternal, and they live onward. And even if you were to stumble onto an airy-fairy, nonsensical group of creative people in this childlike state of wondering about Mu, even to that extent, it's a healthy thing, because it is a legitimate form of escape and self-therapy to know more and more about less and less, or less and less about more and more. And I think that the creative people in every age eventually get around to talking about Lemuria, Atlantis, Mu, and our ancestral cultural heritage, because it really was the basis of what all of us learned. They say artists and small children are more attuned to the living mythologies, and I think Mu is always going to be a living mythology.
Do you find yourself trying to tap into the archetypes when you actually are trying to do the artwork for this?
Well, I wouldn't say consciously trying to tap in. I believe when you don't know what you're doing, that's when
So you just leave yourself open.
yeah, try and remain open. If somebody say, well, what do you believe in? I believe in everything in its own conjecture, everything in its own place. But just explaining it to you is a good opportunity for me, because I think Mu is an important issue, and that all people eventually come around to talking about it, just because it's the 13th letter of the alphabet.
Is there something that kind of is like the dweller on the threshold, or kind of is a fear, you think, in people about Mu, since it was maybe our roots and things that we eventually do have to come to? Is there something so momentous that happened that sometimes we back off from that?
Oh yes, this is another very good question. I think to explain the things of an old man to a small child would be unfair to the child, because it would interrupt his childhood. For that reason, I don't think that particularly young children should interrupt their childhood to know about archaeological facts or really what you could call heavy stuff. But it's a very good thing to bring them to their senses during their midlife crisis.
When there's nowhere else to go?
And
That's very good.
so I think people should pick up a paintbrush or grab some clay and start pounding it. And
Well, you know, your work, when the people will see here, is full of different sides. I mean, I see seascapes that are full of light and energy. I see kind of fun pieces. I see whimsical. It's so interesting because we're talking about Mu here, but you really have many different aspects to your work.
yeah, it's essentially an emotional language, painting is, and understood primarily by the artisans or the artsy-fartsy types. Excuse me, I can't say that, can I?
Oh, yes, you
Too
can.
late.
You can't say that. You did say that.
But no, it's a language, and even when I look around the room at Elan's work, I'm communing with him in that language. And of course, each one of us think, well, nobody can talk to him as well as I can. But
It's like jazz in that sense, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's a way of communing with the energy in jazz and art. In the life of this beautiful energy that's created, we can surround ourselves. And I guess you do try to surround yourself with that energy, right?
absolutely, and this language is such that it's immediate. When someone sees the picture, they know what the artist meant. And if you were to see small children making pictures, it might not make any sense to us, but to all those little kids, they know exactly what the young artist is doing. It's a language, a very successful language about our emotions.
So you try to feel your work
Yeah.
and express that feeling, and it's your expression of feeling.
And
Do you
right
see
now-
yourself trying to go another direction? Do you ever say, okay, I'm feeling like now maybe I've done this and I've done that and I want to create another new artistic direction for myself?
Sure. Yeah, every time I'm exposed to a good painting of any kind, it stirs inside of me to make something myself. I think exposure to art causes art.
So it's
And,
inspiration in a way.
oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's highly important to society. I think that Elan's and my job is more important than a lot of other jobs that one could have in public service, because it's the exact opposite of crime. Art in any form is, and in fact, California recognizes it as the opposite of crime.
Really?
It
That's
enhances
wonderful.
culture. I think so.
It is.
And we're living in such good times when the artists have wonderful mediums to work in.
The sky's the limit. Your imagination is the only thing that limits you, right?
Yeah.
Or unlimits you.
Or limits you, depending
Depending
on...
on Well, you seem like your work is unlimited, and I